Welcome to the Awesemo Early Bird Podcast. It's your old pal Emac coming to you with one. Wait for it. It's Joey Corman making his Early Bird Podcast debut. Joey is one of the many people behind the scenes here at Awesemo, and we like to wear many hats, both in front of and behind the scenes. Heck, I've got multiple behind the scenes duties that you guys have no idea about, but that's how we keep things lean, and we make sure that we put a lot of content in front of the paywall for you guys. Joey, welcome to the Early Bird Podcast.
Emac, glad to be aboard, ready to break down this two-game slate, and excited for my very first NBA podcast for Awesemo.
This will be fun. Promise it'll be easy. It's a two-gamer here. We've got our loyal fans like to listen, and they've gotten used to us shuffling hosts. Last night it was the rare combination. It was myself and Dan Strafford. We try not to do baseball with Dan and I because together we have over 50 years of experience playing fantasy baseball, and we tend to talk about season-long stuff a little more than DFS when we get together. So
yeah, well, the good thing about a two-game slate is that there's less players to be wrong about, especially for me. There's less players, so here we go. I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, we are brought to you guys, of course, by Yahoo. You can sign up if you have not yet for Yahoo using the promo code Awesemo and coming in on one of our links. You can find those links at the bottom section of any of the Cash Game Building Blocks NBA articles or any of the Primetime NFL articles. Those are all free in front of the paywall, written by yours truly. Down at the bottom, you'll see, click that link, use the promo code Awesemo, and you can get a $30 deposit match in YSRPs, which are Yahoo Sports Rewards points, and those are available for immediate use into any contest. Definitely worth checking out. We've got a two-gamer on Tuesday. There are 3 NHL games. Those go off at 7, 7, and 8. The basketball games go off at 8:30 and 9. There will be some form of live before lock / the deep dive. We haven't had a two-game slate in quite a long time on a Tuesday, but not to fear, there will of course be the usual content for all of that. And then a reminder, 14 games on Wednesday, none on Thursday because it's NFL, and we have 3 NFL games. There will be an NFL live before lock early show. I think that'll be around 11 a.m. on Thanksgiving. Kickoff is 12:30, then 4:30, and then I think 8:30 are the 3 kickoff times there. So there's a lot of sports coming up in our near future, but we're going to go game by game here, and we've got a couple decent ones. We've got the Clippers at Dallas, so we get some Luka Doncic, some Kawhi Leonard, a little Paul George. We get Bradley Beal and the Wizards heading into the Pepsi Center in Denver, taking on Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets. Let's start off here with the Clippers. I have a feeling you might have a favorite or a least favorite player that's going to come up here. What do you like or dislike from the Los Angeles for
the
Tuesday?
Clippers? Well, we'll start with what I like from the Clippers. And I mean, we only have a 3-game sample size to work with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Not a lot of data to take away from here. But what's been interesting about the Clippers is that you've had Pat Beverly go off in one game. You've had Montrezl Harrell go off in one game. And you had Lou Williams have a pretty good game. You haven't really seen Kawhi or Paul George go off yet. I got a sneaky feeling one of them is going off against Dallas. I would lean towards Paul George there. He has performed slightly better and is a cheaper price than Kawhi in their 3 games together. And my least favorite, Mo Harkless. I am the founding member of the anti-Mo Harkless fan club, as he has cost me my biggest pot ever. I have a personal vendetta against him. He is not known for getting double-doubles, but he just so happened to get a double-double that day on a meaningless rebound with about 25 seconds left. And I immediately became the founding member of the Mo Harkless fan club. I think we run about 3 or 4 deep. So, so yeah, that's my vendetta against Mo Harkless. I got a couple more vendettas, but we'll save those for
now. Was this in his Portland days, or was this when he was with the Magic?
What's funny is that it was with his Portland days, and Paul George was the one who shot it. The ball that if it just would have went through the hoop, I would have won that pot. But it went in and out. It was about as close to being in as you could possibly imagine. And went out. Mo Harkless was the only starter left on the floor for Portland. I don't know why he was still in, but he was there, grabbed it, fell to, everyone who's played DFS long enough knows how it feels. But still took home a decent sized prize, but not what it would have been.
They're wanting, they gotta know what was it? Was it a 5-figure or was it a 6-figure?
It was it was only a 5-figure.
Okay.
But it was 35,000, which is a good sized pot.
I guess I too would be a member of I'm not a Mo Harkless fan.
So. Yeah, I'm not a huge Mo Harkless fan. I mean, yeah. So I mean, 35 is a good sized pot on three entries and a $10 contest. It's a good sized pot.
Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. So Mo not playing when everybody's healthy. He doesn't quite have the role that he had back in his Portland days, etc. But when Kawhi's out, he comes into a little more prominence here. Everybody sort of takes a little minutes dip when everybody's healthy here. So we're kind of or we don't have our actual projections out, but I'm guessing we're using a baseline somewhere of 32 to 34 when we're talking about this the night before for Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. That probably means that Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are in that 27 to 28 range, and then Patrick Beverley be the other guy that probably gets close to around 30 minutes. And then a lot of it's going to depend on matchup, situation, etc. Going against Dallas will be an interesting one here because, of course, they have Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis. So their center situation is one that bodes well for Harrell. And as we saw in the last game, he can really drop the fantasy points against those undersized centers. When he plays the more traditional guys, it can be a bit of a problem for him because he can't get position for rebounds and generally move those guys out. But this is a decent one for him going against either Powell or Maximilian Kleber. But the guy I want to mention, people talked about in chat, was Ivica Zubac. So the interesting thing about him is you watch him, he doesn't usually play in the fourth quarter. He generally has like 1.5 to 2 decent rotations during the game. But the problem is he plays typically those first 6 minutes, maybe even the first 8 minutes. And I used to call this the Marcin Gortat from when he was with Washington, because I'm a Wizards fan. He'd come out of that first rotation with like eight points and 6 rebounds, and you're like, all right, here we go, baby. We've got ourselves a live one here. And then they end the game with 10 points and 8 rebounds. So just be careful. He definitely gives way to the closing unit, which does have guys that aren't in the starting lineup with Harrell and Lou Williams. So you're going to be excited a lot of nights with Zubac, and then it's not going to come to fruition. It will happen if there's a lot of blowout run. But again, everybody's healthy now, so everybody gets a little bit of their minutes. Anybody else from the bench worth noting? Because we really only do have 4 teams. Perhaps a JaMychal Green, maybe. I do like Patrick Beverley just because he will be out there and have some people he can guard there on the Mavericks.
Yeah, Beverley will be interesting, especially if you're playing on FanDuel where you got to pick 2 point guards. I mean, in terms of the benches, the Clippers aren't my favorite just because everyone is healthy and guys like JaMychal Green really have a ceiling on them right now. In terms of Zubac, he's probably the only one I would really think about off the bench. It's probably worth noting that his big games this season have come against more traditional centers. He had a good game against Gobert. He had a good game against Whiteside. And he had 2 good games and blowout victories that were like a joke. So, if you think, Dallas is going to get blown out, then maybe you give him a shot. But I don't see him going up against Dwight Powell. That's not that type of center that Whiteside and Gobert are.
The one thing we do want to keep an eye on is that there are 14 teams playing on Wednesday, so there are only 2 teams off. But the Clippers are one of those on a back-to-back. Now they'll be going to Memphis. I would suspect if Kawhi's going to sit out one of these back-to-backs, which it's almost assuredly that he will, it's going to be the one in Memphis. The one on Tuesday is the NBA TV game, so that's the national TV game. Plus, I think they need him more against Dallas than they do against the Grizzlies. But that'll be something to keep an eye on. We'll have plenty of time to react to that because with the 8:30 start, they're the first team in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anyone you like besides maybe Zubac on Clippers? Anyone who stands out?
No, it would for me. It would be probably Beverly of the guys that don't necessarily come first to mind. But on a 4-game slate, Zubac is to kind of complete the thought of me saying, yeah, he's going to come out of that first rotation with like a 6-6.
Mhm.
I will be playing him. We're all going to think this is a great night, and then the bulk of his minutes come in that first rotation. So
Yep.
just temper expectations and hope he gets it, but no, he's not going to double that up in the second half.
No, he is not. He has not broken 20 minutes. He's a max 21-minute guy, it seems like. So he has not played more than 21 minutes this year in a game.
Yep. All right. On to the Dallas side of things here. We definitely have the two pillars. You've got Luka Doncic, who has been absolutely phenomenal. He's got, I believe it's 7 triple doubles in his 14 games of going off memory. I kind of lost track of days here, but he missed 3 others by 2 assists, 3 assists, and 1 assist. So he leads the Mavericks in pretty much everything except for block shots. Rebounding, he leads them. Scoring, assists, steals, usage, minutes, shooting percentage, leads them in everything. The guy behind him, of course, Kristaps Porzingis. Kristaps Porzingis comes into play. He's relatively discounted on DraftKings, which is nice, at 6,900. FanDuel, he's 85, but we got to play 2 power forwards there. And then he's nicely priced at 33 over on Yahoo, which, of course, is the presenting sponsor here. Luka will be the building block that we want, I think, of everybody. Probably followed by Bradley Beal. And then the question becomes, do we go with Doncic or do we go with one of the 2 superstars on the Clippers? Because they are kind of competing with each other. Jokic for Denver gets a great matchup against the Wizards, but he's been hit or miss all season. And then Beal, that's a nice matchup. He's got to carry the team, but Denver has one of the best defense, plays at one of the slowest paces, and is at altitude. So that's, kind of the mark against him. So all of a sudden, it should be no surprise that Doncic, probably going to be the most popular player, probably also going to garner the defensive attention of Kawhi Leonard, not necessarily Pat Beverly. But what do you like here? What is your assessment of the Mavericks?
Well, I think can we put hashtag Luka Lock? Can we do that? Luka Lock.
You are the media maestro. Don't ask me. I don't know.
I think we can do that. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't want to jinx him or anything but he is been better than anyone could really ever imagine. I'm gonna have a real hard time passing up on him in any scenario on any site. I mean, FanDuel is ridiculously priced, $12,500. $54 on Yahoo. But I mean, the guy is averaging 69.3 points his last 3 games. He's averaging for the season 57.3 on FanDuel, 62.69. He gets that triple double bonus a lot of the times on DraftKings. I can't see passing up Luka Doncic. I don't think a lot of people will. Would you even consider fading Luka here?
No, I think this is going to be similar to the single game slate on Monday Night Football, where we just said, you know what, you got to play Lamar Jackson. There are going to be certain nights where this is the case. We've already seen it this year with Giannis Antetokounmpo comes to mind from a few slates ago. Also on, it was either a 2 or 3 game slate where, he was on 80% of the teams and then he dropped, 60 fantasy points. I mean, it wasn't a phenomenal showing, but there was no way you could make up those raw points. The question comes in on, with regards to Luka, as I hit on those other 4 or 5 guys, there are some other options. Luka just has the clearest path to the best performance. That's no guarantee that he's going to be the one that at the end of the night is on top of the scoreboard, but he has the clearest path. Now we're going to be amongst everybody else that sees it. But then it starts to come into a question of popularity and leveraging plays off of what the field is doing, etc. I'd rather be on the side that's letting other people make mistakes and not rostering Luka, which is wild to say for a kid who's 20 years old and just in his second season.
Can't legally drink here, yeah. I mean,
exactly.
Him and Juan Soto.
I was going to say it's like Juan Soto all over.
So. Joe Buck is probably somewhere mentioning Luka Doncic age over and over again. He's only 20. But I mean, so I'll be looking to roster Luke. I'll be looking to roster one of the big guns on the Clippers, probably Paul George. In terms of other players on the Mavs, it's gonna be hard to afford Porzingis, especially on FanDuel if you're rostering those two guys. He's coming off a real big game against Houston, but he's had his big games and then he's disappointed the following game a lot of times this year. Tim Hardaway's coming off a monster game. He shot 18 times against Houston. So that game was overlooked because people were focusing on football. But Hardaway shot 18 times. He dropped 31 points on the Rockets. He started 3 straight games for Seth Curry, who's now back from an illness. But I'm not banking on him. He's at his highest price of the season. I'm not banking on him shooting 18 times again against the Clippers defense. That's a lot tougher than Houston. Other than that, there's not a lot of consistent production on Dallas. Dwight Powell has been widely useless in most games. He gets minutes in the mid-20s, but he likely needs close to 30 minutes to even be worth a look. Kleber is actually questionable, so we'll have to keep an eye on him. And if he sits out, I think Boban got 15 minutes. He went 12 and 8 in the only game that Kleber missed. So 12 points, 8 rebounds. So, and that was a 20-point blowout. So there are some options. I have one guy on the bench that's really interesting to me for the Mavs. That's DeLon Wright, mainly because he can put up numbers in limited minutes. He's had some good performances with only 19 minutes. He's had a 29.3 FanDuel point performance. He's had a 23.8 FanDuel point performance. So he doesn't need the heavy 30-plus minutes to get you into a place where you can really be in an optimal lineup in a 2-game slate. So, what's your take on the Mavs?
Yeah, I think that
cast?
Yeah, that hits most of it. If Maxey is out, let's see, what is his prognosis? Bruised right knee. Got that on Sunday, but they think he's probably going to play. But we've seen both him and Powell have each had games where they've ended up sitting where we thought they were on the probable side of questionable. There is just one designation in the NBA. It's questionable. Or out. So when you hear people talking about probable or doubtful, those are not really the official ones. It's usually the beat writers or even the team saying, yeah, that it's more likely than not they're not going to play, but they're just not ruled out yet. So keep that in mind as you see it. It's different. I mean, the NFL changed theirs to where they just have questionable and doubtful now. They don't have probable anymore, and baseball's probably the easiest. They just give us a starting lineup. But Hardaway, I think, is okay. I think DeLon Wright, I like that, but I agree. We don't know what's really going to happen with Seth Curry. You've got Jalen Brunson. He'll probably take the biggest minutes hit, and this probably takes JJ Barea out of even playing in this game if everybody's back and healthy. So not a ton to find there, but we got to turn over every rock because there are 4 teams in our player. So I think we
can't forget about Dorian Finney-Smith, DFS himself, Dorian Finney-Smith. Yeah, I know. I do know.
He's gonna be on the court.
He will be.
But they are empty minutes. They're like 0.6 fantasy points per minute.
Yeah, he's coming off a big game. One thing I know about Dorian Finney-Smith is do not bank on him having 2 straight good games. That is just not his MO. He's going to be he's a maddening player to play in DFS. No pun intended.
Yeah.
No pun. But Brunson can, if you think the game's going to be a blowout or if you're banking on someone maybe getting hurt, Brunson can put up decent points, and he's a good permanent player. It's just a question whether minutes will be there. They won't be unless it's a blowout or someone gets hurt, or in foul trouble. So
yeah, I'm just double checking. It's a long list. So Dallas does not play on a Wednesday, and Denver does not play on Wednesday. So it's the 2 home teams on Tuesday are the 2 that aren't playing on Wednesday. The other 28 teams are all in action. So we mentioned the Clippers are going to be there. They're in Dallas on Monday. They'll be in Memphis on Tuesday. The Wizards in Denver on Tuesday, and then they will be in Phoenix on Wednesday. So let's talk about the Wizards for a minute. Sort of my adopted team, but then they went and traded my favorite player and got rid of let my other favorite player sign elsewhere. That would be Tomas Satoransky and Kelly Oubre Jr. Kelly Oubre and I have nothing in common, but I've loved him ever since he's been on the Wizards team.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's
Satoransky's he's in Chicago now.
he's in Chicago now. Yeah,
He's here.
I think with Oubre, it's his DGAF attitude that I found kind of fun. Plus the hair game. The hair game is strong with him. But those guys are of course not in the picture. But John Wall's not in the picture, so that means Bradley Beal is seeing minutes. He's one of the top 10 minutes per game guys. He basically plays 40 minutes in competitive games because he is about all the Wizards have. So he is the guy we like. He's at a hefty price point, 9,300, 9,700 on FanDuel, and 44. I like the 44 on Yahoo. Now it's a little tricky with him because he is going to play the next night, and this one is at altitude, and he's been run ragged. But the Wizards have had a couple days off, so you got to do what you got to do. On the other side, coming up with him, Tomas Bryant.
We'll call him Tomas. Tomas Bryant. Perfect.
Yeah. Like it. So Bryant has been pretty solid. Thank you, Lakers, for casting him aside. But he is someone that's good. But he's going to have his hands full because he's going to be tasked with playing defense against Plumlee and Jokic. So not the easiest for him. I like Davis Bertans. He's been outstanding as a shooter. We, of course, like shooters when they're not on back-to-backs, and he's not. And he's reasonably priced, 5,200 on DK. He and Moritz Wagner are the guys that come off the bench for the Wizards. And the interesting thing is Wagner lives to foul. So he's a major wild card. But Davis Bertans has been shooting the lights out and been very, very solid. But we got a lot of question marks because you got Rui Hachimura in there that takes minutes. So it's kind of a hot hand situation with those three. Then you've got Troy Brown Jr., who they like as a future piece, but he's very green and needs seasoning. For the guards, I was saying that Ish Smith and Isaiah Thomas kind of cancel each other out because they've been playing hot hand. They both closed in the Wizards last game. Yeah. That is something I was not expecting. It's like, let's play YMCA defense and put those guys together.
Well, the Wizards are very fully committed to YMCA defense, so why not just go all in on YMCA defense? I mean, you let up 157 points in a game and lose in regulation. That's what, or you score 157 points and lose in regulation. Yeah. So, I was surprised by that too.
Yeah, so these are the pieces that are viable. Bradley Beal I'm good with. Bryant I'm good with. I wouldn't want more than two of any of the other guys on my team just because I don't think they can all get there, especially at altitude, especially against a slower team in Denver. So even on the 4-game slate, I would probably put, if I was doing mass multi-entry, which I will be, I will probably make a group of, I will probably say Smith and Thomas I won't have on the same team. And I probably won't do Bertans, Hachimura, and Wagner on the same team. Right. So that way I would get one guard and one forward. And then if my lineup ended up with Beal and Tomas Bryant in it, I'd have 4 Wizards and I'd be okay with that. It's just I would try to get the guys that don't have a lot of overlap in skill set and stealing minutes from each other.
Yeah. I mean, there's a possibility you play scenarios here. You play a close game in the early one, and you play a blowout in the second one, and really try to differentiate yourself there. Maybe look at Jordan Mccray, who's getting some decent minutes off the bench. I think he's gotten what do I have here for him? He's gotten 20. He's gotten 20 plus minutes in 2 straight games now, and he's put up some decent numbers. So he's worth a look. Troy Brown has been really pretty bad. He's gotten, I don't know, about 6 starts in a row, and it's just kind of been not much of anything. So I have a question for you, Emac. At what point in the season do you start taking into account defense first position situations?
So I don't as much at all anymore. I think you can still for centers. I think what we really want to look at now is points in the paint. I do like to look at team rebounding, both offensive and defensive percentages, but starting to look at defense versus position, it's very, very difficult because the team, so much of the game is transition now. Now it's not, 5-on-1 fast breaks, or would be an extreme. It's not like, 3-on-1s, 4-on-2 fast breaks, but the people are always moving and they're never really set because everything's push, 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 push. And that's how we're having so many possessions in those same 48 minutes. But what it means is teams aren't getting into the half court set. So it means they're not marking the players as often as they normally would, and they're not fronting them because, if you're in transition, the guys next to you or in front of you or behind, they're just not in a spot where you're normally going to be on defense. So I think it's harder and harder to look at that definitively. You can take a glance at it, but I think what you want to know more is which teams are kind of better against guards or backcourt players. Which teams are kind of better against front court players. And then a lot of that, I think, comes out in the wash by seeing which teams allow the most 3-pointers, which teams have better rebounding percentages, etc. But it's harder and harder just to say, like Kawhi Leonard. Well, I'm pretty sure he's going to be the guy that guards Luka Doncic, but does that mean it's going to be a box-in-one with him on Luka? Probably not. So, there are going to be other people on Luka, and when it's Pat Beverly, it's not going to go well for Pat Beverly.
It will not go well for Pat Beverly. Pat Beverly is a bulldog, and he's pretty, but he's not flopping around. He's pretty tenacious, but he's not quite a good match for Luka. But back to the Wizards and the Nuggets.
If this is where it does come in. So sorry, and then I'll set you up for this one. And this is where Adam is good. I know you have your favorite teams, etc. If you're someone that watches a lot of games, a lot of times you can come in and say, "Hey, this is a game where X will probably happen because this is how the opponent is setting up." And one of the places we've been able to do, haven't been able to do it this year because the rotation's just been all over the place. But looking to Charlotte, especially when they had Kemba Walker, was this going to be a Cody Zeller game or was this going to be a Marvin Williams game? You could kind of tell what it was going to be, and it was about a third of the matchups were going to be good for Zeller, about a third of them for Williams, and the others were just neutral or they were bad for both. But you could kind of find that other player. I'm hoping you're going to say, "Hey, have you thought about this guy?" What do you have for us?
For on the Washington side here,
on the defense versus position, were you going somewhere?
I mean, Denver has been locked down against guards.
Mm-hmm.
And Washington has been absolutely atrocious against centers. So, I mean, this sets up just about as well for Jokic as possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's pretty hard to fade Jokic here, but he's had some good matchups. He had a good matchup against Brooklyn. He didn't really come through. But he's starting to crack his minutes in the lower to mid 30s now. I mean, if he gets minutes in the 30s, I think he's going for 60 plus against Washington. You're going to need this game to stay close, but if there's no way Washington's going to contain him with he's potential for a triple double if he's getting minutes in the 30s against Washington.
And that's a really good point. So one thing I have been looking a lot more at the last 2 seasons is standings, because I kind of want to see, is this going to be a throwaway game? What are they going to do? Are they need to put it down? So Atlanta, the last 2 seasons, they play very well at home. They keep games going into the fourth quarter. Last year down the stretch, they beat the Wizards twice when the Wizards were, when they were tanking and the Wizards were trying to get into the playoffs.
Right.
They still beat the Wizards twice. It's like, you never know. So what are those teams like? So looking at Denver, we oftentimes have our heads down and we don't look at the standings, but it's going to be tough in the West this year. The Lakers right now are 14-2. That's the best record ever for LeBron after 16 games. 13-3 was the best with this first time with the Cavs. The Nuggets are 12-3, Clippers 12-5, Mavs 11-5, Utah 11-5, Rockets 11-6. That's the top 6 teams are all, jumbled up there. And then 7 and 8 are both above 500. And then 9 and 10 are 1 game under 500. So wins are still at a premium here. So what I like to think of is the Wizards are going to be trying. They're going to play Beal a ton. But that means that to put them away, Jokic is going to have a good game. And you're absolutely right. The Wizards are a disaster against opposing front courts. And Jokic does it all.
He does do it all. Yeah, I mean, Denver's been, this season has not been the Denver of last year. They've gotten off to some really slow starts, especially at home. I know they had to come back against Brooklyn recently. They were down pretty They were down. They hit a decent margin against the Suns last game, and they came back and really put it to them in the second half. So I'll be looking. Mike Malone, he's a no nonsense coach. He'll be looking to really say, you know what, we got to come on, we got to put it to Washington. And this game definitely has some major blowout potential. You know, it's the center position. I'll be looking to Jokic. I'm not going to be messing around here. I'm going to play the defense first position matchup. He could probably put up monster numbers in 25 minutes against Washington.
Yeah, he could flirt with the triple double because he'll get the rebounds. We already know he regularly gets the assists, and then he just needs the 10 points. So even if he plays 25, 30 minutes, he could have a 10-10-10 type triple double, a couple steals or a block, and all of a sudden, oh my gosh, he only played 30 minutes, but he got you 44 fantasy points.
He got you there, especially on DraftKings when you get that bonus for the triple double. That's big. Other than that, Beal scares me. Denver's just been locked down against guards all season.
Yeah, Gary Harris is good, and then when Harris is tired, they've got Will Barton for some length, and then they've got Jamal Murray. If they really need to put another set of fresh legs on him. So they do harry the perimeter guys.
The thing about the Nuggets, they don't need to play a real slow tempo, but they are probably one of the deepest teams in the league. They have a lot of high quality bench players, which is really Denver's been a tough team in DFS this year. Like, just has not been great value anywhere. Jamal Murray's had his games. Jokic has had his games, but overall pretty consistently. I mean, Will Barton's been pretty good consistently, but the value has not been there. They've been overpriced all season. Even their bench isn't that appealing. I mean, the guy I'm looking at in Washington, Hachimura, is an all outcomes kind of guy because he's a standard deviation guy because he could play 20 minutes or he could play 35 minutes. So in terms of like a GPP, you're not playing Hachimura in a cash game, but if you're playing a GPP, I think you're hoping for Hachimura to, Burton's to be cold and Hachimura to maybe go off. He'll be low owned. He hasn't had a big game in about 3 or 4 games. But I'd be targeting him. There's not a lot else I like on. I wouldn't touch Troy Brown. Maybe an Isaiah Thomas revenge game. I don't know. He played like 8 games for Denver last year.
I was gonna say I know he played, but did he play many games?
Right. Maybe an IT revenge game. Ish Smith, I wouldn't be buying too much. Gary Harris is really cheap across the board, and he's going to get minutes if there's if it's a close game, he's going to get minutes in the 30s. So he's really cheap. I'd be looking. My favorite targets in this game are obviously Jokic and probably Harris at the shooting guard position, as well as potentially Hachimura. Burton's getting pricey. He's getting a little pricey. He's still decent on DraftKings, but $6,000 for FanDuel is coming off the bench is quite a bit. What do you think about that?
I think he's okay, but I'm still back to I don't want multiple of those guys on my.
I would agree. Absolutely not.
So here's the Isaiah Thomas. He played 12 games for Denver last year. This will be his 13th game as playing for the Wizards.
Oh wow!
Does that mean anything? No, not really. But.
Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. But there's a lot of irrational theories I like to apply to things that don't mean anything. I mean, I like to play people on their birthdays, so it's like.
But
like
not
Eric
the day
Paschall.
after. Not the day after.
Not the day after. Eric Paschall's a good game on his birthday, so that automatically means everyone's going to have a good game on their birthday now. So that's I like to do a lot of rational. I'm superstitious, but who isn't, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and we like to have a little fun with this because
we do.
As long as the underlying things work out. Let's say it was the birthday, or let's say it was they didn't like the other team. As Fast Eddie likes to say, there is something to it. I have no idea how to quantify it. So
yes, exactly. I mean, it's a 2-game slate, so you're going to have to differentiate somewhere if you're in a GPP, and you're going to have to take that guy that you really probably don't want to take, but it's going to be that low-owned guy that's going to win it for you. And is anyone on Denver's bench really stand out to you that could be that guy?
Other than Malik Beasley.
Malik Beasley, he has not played much.
But it's his birthday tomorrow.
Is it his birthday?
It is his birthday. So
as
we're wrapping up the podcast, look at that.
Wow.
That's kind of fortuitous.
Oh my God. Forget the entire podcast. Like we're all in on Malik Beasley now. It's over. Malik Beasley night, everybody. It's official.
That's a fun way to finish. Oh, I did not know that his nickname is the Mutant.
It's the what? The mute?
The Mutant.
The mutant. Oh, I thought you said the mute because maybe he scores quietly.
Oh.
The mutant. Okay.
Yes.
I did not know that either.
Right, well, basketball reference. It is a wealth of knowledge.
It is.
But yeah, with that, we're gonna wrap this up. We got everybody here safely to work. So again, we got all sorts of content coming for you. Everything's a little choppy this week because of, or unbalanced, shall we say, because of Thanksgiving. We've got the 3 NFL games on Thanksgiving. We'll have the morning show live before lock for that on Thursday. On Wednesday, we have 14 NBA games. You will get wall-to-wall coverage for that one. We have the 2 games here coming up on Tuesday night, but we also have a couple NHL games, so you'll get shows for that. 9:30 a.m., of course, you will get the DFS NBA strategy show. 11 o'clock, you're going to get the NFL DFS strategy show, and then, of course, all the accoutrements and articles, both free and paywall that you are used to seeing. And then, of course, shout out over here to Yahoo, the presenting sponsor of the Early Bird podcast. What is your Twitter, Joey, if people would like to?
It is I think you might. It's at Leave It to Divac.
Yes.
LEAVEIT #2 Divac, like Vladi.
There we go. Perfect. And I am at EMACDFS, and of course it is Osmo_COM.
And they should know that I am mainly the one who's running the Osmo Twitter account. So if you are saying, who's that idiot who runs the Twitter account? That's me.
Yeah, I guess you don't have to worry about Leave It to Divac. Just DM the Osmo main Twitter account.
Yeah, if you want to talk to me and tell me how stupid it is I play people on their birthdays, then you can DM the Twitter account. I'll probably ignore you, but you can DM it. I'll read it.
All right. Well, there we are. Thank you for joining us, Joey. Yep. It was a good one. Hopefully we'll get you on a few more of these Early Bird podcasts as well as some shows, so that'll be a fun one. With that, gamers,
looking forward to it, and have a great Thanksgiving, man.